Hi, everybody. It's Chris Frew here today for another episode of What's the Buzz. Excited to have this conversation today with Doug Edgeton, President and CEO of the North Carolina's Biotechnology Center, also NCBiotech, right? Doug, welcome.
Thank you. Well, thank you.
We were talking before. It's a very timely conversation. I'm coming down to visit North Carolina just next week. So, I get to, you get to, this is like a little preamble. You get to get me excited about what I'm coming down to.
Good. Yeah, just don't bring any snow. We'll be okay. So.
I promise you. I think we've all had enough of that.
Right.
Well, for those of you who are tuning in, this is our What's the Buzz podcast, where we talk to ecosystem builders. And for us, ecosystem builders are, this industry, it takes a village, right? We hear that all the time. I'm sure you hear that all the time, Doug.
Sure.
And we think it's important to celebrate the people that are supporting the companies that are working so hard from early stage to commercial biopharma to move products to patients and advance new research. So we get to have conversation once a week with people like you, Doug, who are really working and partnering and sustaining an ecosystem that can thrive. So today we're all talking about inside North Carolina's thriving life sciences sector. And our podcast here each week is sponsored by our good friends at Heffron. So I don't know if you're familiar with Heffron. They've been around 104 years. Talk about some, staying power. Heffron's a fourth generation company right now in the mechanical and construction space with a really strong expertise in life sciences, as well as a strong service arm. They've been part of some of the iconic buildings here in the Maryland area, like the Human Genome Sciences and some of the iconic sectors. So Heffron is one of our really close friends, good partners, sponsoring BioBuzz on a national level. So I want to thank them for all they do to support the ecosystem and literally build the ecosystem, one building at a time. So, Doug, let's jump into things. Can you just do a brief introduction and tell, for those people who aren't familiar, tell us about the North Carolina Biotechnology Center?
Certainly. Proud to say that the North Carolina Biotechnology Center is the first organization of its type that was formed in the world. And that is where the state government decided we want to have a group that focuses on a particular industry sector, and they're going to sit outside of state government. And yet we get most of our funding from a grant from the state. So we've been funded continuously since 1984. And that's, as far as we know, the first group that's been like that. We are going into, a number of iterations of life sciences. When Biotechnology Center was formed, that was kind of a new word and nobody really knew exactly what it was. But we've migrated. We really do focus again on biotechnology and life sciences, which includes our big five verticals. We really do work very hard in biopharma manufacturing, cell and gene therapy, clinical research, device manufacturing, and ag tech. And we continue to work in the R&D space. Probably a lesser known these days fact about North Carolina is how well we do in R&D, but it is diffuse, dispersed, and the stories are not flowing like they did in the 70s and 80s. So, but the Biotech Center has been focused on one thing and one thing only, and that is to grow the life sciences sector of the state. And just as a little fact, when I started working here in 2012, the industry accounted for about 45 to 50 billion dollars a year of annual economic impact. And it's not measured every year. We do it every other year. So in our last measurement 2 years ago, it's about $82.5 billion of annual economic impact. So the growth has been steady and fast, and our goal is to hit 100 billion by 2030. So the Biotech Center does a lot of things. We make grants to universities, and so that helps bring technology that's really early and helps it get its next round of funding from grants. Then we make loans to early stage startup companies. And I tell people that generally happens when the founders, family members, and friends don't want to talk to them anymore because they keep asking them for money, and we make a non-diluted investment loan to the company, and that helps them get started. And we do between those two programs, as much as the money matters, it is a lot of advice, guidance, connections, finding additional talent. And then we recruit. We recruit companies from around the world, and we help companies that are here who are wanting to expand to expand. So that takes a staff of experts, and I'm very blessed to have a team of experts in here. Everybody from we're a technology-based economic development organization that focuses exclusively in life sciences. But that takes having people who not only know that the recruitment world, but people who are experts in grants and grant writing and grant evaluating, and people who are experts in loans and working to bring venture capital together to show the VC world what's available. So we've had targeted goals in that space for a while of how do you attract money in to the state, and we've been very fortunate. From 2020 to 2025, our goal was to attract $4 billion of external funding into the state, and we ended up with 4.3 billion. So now in the next few years, our goal is to hit 5 billion, and we're well on our way. But those things are part of building an ecosystem. So workforce training, we have experts in workforce development, workforce training, and we work in communities across the state because we're too small to do it all by ourselves. So we have a staff of people, and we have programs we put together, and we try to keep up with technology. And we've got a program we call Grads to Work that I'm really proud of in Greenville, North Carolina, where you have some people that are in some of the poorer schools in that area. And our team there came up with an idea that if we could get a training program or somebody who graduated from high school and did well on math and science tests could go for 2 days. And if they did that, could we get them an interview with large biomanufacturers in the area? And we've been working with those companies, and proud to say that the Grads to Work had 26 people go through last year, or 28 people go through, and 26 were placed into jobs. But
Wow.
the tools we had to develop were, we have to teach you how to press a tablet or make a tablet, press it, or how to fill those capsules, and what goes on with aseptic training so that they know enough to interview. And it's simple things like that we are working to get people to understand. You see these big companies, not everybody there is a PhD or a doctor or anything like that. We need people who understand how to follow a procedure and a protocol, and the same with their mechanical systems. And so we're training people how to do air conditioning repair and other things like that. So we work with the community college system, which North Carolina's got a lot of firsts. We are very blessed to have first public university, the first community college system. And in that, we have that program you referenced earlier called BioWork. Mm-hmm. Is a program we developed at the Biotech Center, which is taught at several of the 15 of the community colleges. I think there are 58 colleges. And the ones that teach it are, not surprisingly, connected or right near the large manufacturers. So, getting that workforce training, getting people aware of what the opportunities are, working with the community to make sure that building permitting and water's available and electrical power, and that you have a supply of people who will provide all the supplies and things you need. So, our industry has grown in the state now. When we were formed in 1984, as far as we can tell, there were 5 life science companies in the state and about 25 or so companies that supported them. And now we have 860 life science companies, and there are approximately 2,300 support companies in the state. So
incredible.
Yeah.
A lot of growth.
A lot of growth. 76,000 people directly employed in the business. So and these are high-paying jobs, or they're high-paying careers. About twice what the average wage is in North Carolina. and so they're over 120,000 now. So it's a great industry. Provides, you know, when you get right down to it, it takes care of health issues, and all of us need people to do these things, to create these medicines, to make them available so we can have healthier lives. And so,
Yeah, that's
and
what
yeah,
I love about this industry, and it's what so many people are passionate about. Yeah, you mentioned a few things that I want to circle back on, Doug, because you mentioned a lot of firsts, and I think that when I travel around, I travel around a lot of ecosystems. The workforce is something that
right,
people say, how do we do what North Carolina has done? You know, and and I'd love for you to talk about kind of how you've committed to it for so long, and I'd unpack that a little bit. But before
sure,
jumping in, I want to share an observation that I had at one of my last visits. I was down. One of our sponsors, Kymanox, is a
right,
longstanding supporter down there in North
right,
Carolina. Kymanox invited me to one of your biomanufacturing workforce dinners.
right.
I guess you hold them somewhat regularly. Um,
Every quarter, right?
every quarter. So
Yeah,
I've been to those similar events in different markets as well. So I was sitting there at your building, down at the Biotech Center,
right,
which is a convener all the time of a lot of events.
right,
I'm looking around and I saw uh, site head at Pfizer, saw the site head at Fujifilm. I saw like head of manufacturing. And I bring that up because that's special. Like when I think about workforce, I do a lot of workforce programs in other groups where there's HRs at the table,
right.
or people send, you know, different management level, but it was the head of the facilities. It's multiple that they were dedicating their time to workforce. So maybe also why you talk a little more about like how you foster this workforce pipeline, and
Sure.
how do you get that culture where industry is there at the table with you investing and from a top down? How does that build?
Well, it really is a lot of hands-on. We have our sister organization called North Carolina Life Sciences Inc., NC Life Sci. And so they're a member organization and they host this biomanufacturers forum because we have a facility at the North Carolina Biotechnology Center. And as a 501c3, we can host events that support the industry. So we all work together, like we have a call every Friday with our partners at NC Life Sci and the local Center for Entrepreneurial Development. And it takes us working as a unit to make sure that the industry is represented. They know what we're doing. We know how we can help them. So those biomanufacturer dinners have become so the content of the program is driven largely by what they want to hear about. So that's how the site heads come because it's things that they want to know that are common. They can't talk about everything because of trade secrets, but things like workforce, they all have a problem. They all or have a concern about making sure that they can get the teams, the people they need, the skills they need. And if they can relay that to us and to NC Life Sci, we can turn around, work with the community college system, work with the university system, work with K through 12 to say, here's real time. This is what the people who run the program say, not filtered down through other people. This is the person who's got to make a decision every day about how they're going to do things. And so that has been one of the great things about our community. We do work together. I'd like to think the Biotech Center has had a lot to do with being the connector, the vehicle for connection. We know a lot of people. Our Rolodex is huge, and the hard part is keeping it up because people come and go. One of the other things we know is people who have a good experience in North Carolina and they get recruited away to some other company. When their company is deciding to expand, they oftentimes are the ones who say, you should talk to North Carolina. They know how to do this. And so that's always been a big plus for us.
Yeah, well, I love that. I mean, the team atmosphere, like you said, we're we got to do it together.
Right.
And but it is great. I mean, you've had a lot of people. So again, just reiterating, is it like something like 10.8 billion in industry projects that have been announced over the past 3 years? Or there's
Oh, okay. Yeah, different numbers. Let me look and see if I
yeah,
can
I don't
give
know
you
what but
the most current one. So from January of 2022 to January of 2026, there were 91 life science recruitment or expansion project announcements projected to add 10,102 new jobs and $19 billion of investment. So depending on the window of the time that you're looking at. So it's a
yeah,
lot of announcements. Workforce training has become a big deal. As you said earlier, we do a lot with our training programs. And just in the last 3 or 4 years, in 4 counties of our state, additional investment has been made into life science training facilities to the tune of over $215 million.
wow,
So uh,
that's incredible.
you got to have these special skill, special buildings,
Sure.
and so the people our General Assembly has been extremely wise to continue to support the growth of these areas.
Yeah, and that's a message I've heard as well, is that the success, you see a lot of headlines, right?
Right.
Johnson Johnson, Novo Nordisk, Biogen, Amgen. You see a lot of these headlines of investment in North Carolina, and from an economic development perspective, a lot of people are like, what? Everyone's choosing North Carolina, but it's something that you've built over
Decades.
decades that have kind of kind of all coming together. This is an overnight thing. You guys have been investing in workforce for multiple decades, and that's one
Yes.
of the main things that companies look for when they grow is the workforce there, and if not, is the systems there that I believe that North Carolina can get me the workforce in the next 3 or 4 years when the plant comes live.
Right. Right. Correct. That is exactly what we've seen too. And the thing that is sort of amazing, while it may have all started in and around Research Triangle Park, it has spread across the state. And that's one of our jobs, is to make sure that we can take the programs, the know-how, the knowledge, and help communities grab it quickly and understand what they need to do, help the community college grab the program, get the training in place. And then, it becomes a kind of a faster process for everybody
Yeah.
once you kind of have this groundwork laid out. So
Yeah, so talk a little bit about that, Doug. So, you hear Research Triangle Park, or RTP, is kind of like the branding that people, often resonate to, but a lot of the success, or a lot of the growth, there's suburbs and other hubs that have kind of emerged around it, Holly Springs and some other areas. Can you talk a little bit about some of the emerging areas that you just mentioned, that you're investing in workforce and you're seeing the success in these expansion projects?
right. You mentioned Holly Springs, and I wish I had bought a house down there when I moved here, because the property values have gone through the roof now. But the Holly Springs community, probably 20 years ago, decided they wanted to find a way to attract and get sites ready and get the permitting in order to be attractive to the industry. And so since they chose that, they invested in wastewater treatment, they invested in workforce training and getting sites pretty well ready. They have done so well. I mean, Fujifilm has got a huge facility. Amgen's got a huge facility. Genentech's building a huge facility. Now, all these things are happening. Billions of dollars, not just a couple, tens of billions of dollars have poured into that community. So similarly, 10 or 15 years before that, Johnston County, a little town called Clayton, had said, "Hey, we want to do this." So they started a training program that started with biowork, and they had a small company there at the time. Now that company is Grifols North America, and they've got probably, I don't know, 3.5 or maybe $4 billion of investment in the community. Their neighbor is Novo Nordisk, which is probably on the order of $6 or $7 billion of investment. That has totally changed the community. Jobs, employment. There's wealth there that didn't exist before. Recently, Wilson is a community where the legislature decided to build this program called the Best Building Eastern science training facility in Wilson to help support J&J. J&J made an announcement, and after that, they decided they would expand by another $2 billion. These are all communities that are 25 to 40 miles from around the Raleigh area, but still very accessible to the airport, which has a number of direct flights, which helps a lot with these international connections. And we also have seen now a big jump down near Charlotte. Lilly decided to invest a couple of $1 billion in a large facility down near Charlotte, and that proved that we could help build the workforce, find the sites, get them into the market where they needed to be, close to several things that Charlotte has to offer. And we see that kind of filling in now as a next huge hub. So
Yeah, that's incredible. It's in listening to you, it's almost like a recipe, right? You figured out the recipe, they're kind of a core, and then you're like, all right, let's push this recipe out to the other communities so we can kind of, yeah, extend the wealth, extend the education, continue to grow. But what I'm hearing is there's again, it's planned, it's proactive, and workforce is a core part of it. You also mentioned logistics being an important part of it.
right.
You want to talk more about that? I mean, when you think about North Carolina, what are those foundational infrastructure things that that people should know about that exist there that make
Right.
it attractive?
So yeah, transportation is a big issue. Getting people in and out of the market, but getting finished goods in and out. So North Carolina is blessed with a great highway system and a great rail system, expanding our port to a more deep water port. And so, as evidence that must be a smart thing to do, a company called Frontier Scientific is investing $2 billion in Wilmington, North Carolina, to put a cold storage facility so you can uh, build your or make your medicines in North Carolina, send them there for storage. They have a direct connection to Shannon, Ireland. So on the other side, logistics are taken care of. So import, export in and out of Europe is an easy thing to do. And so that is a first direct that we know of, kind of connector for finished goods in the market. So we're looking at as a way for North Carolina to be able to fulfill some of the things the federal government is talking about, like onshoring a lot of things, but also making products available worldwide. So
Yeah, that's great. I remember hearing more about cold storage, like in Wilmington, and life sciences in Wilmington, and life science infrastructure in Wilmington around COVID. And the first time I started hearing Wilmington and life sciences in kind of the same sentence, and
right,
then you understand kind of the port and the investment and the transportation, and it's suddenly the whole kind of the whole system starts to come together.
right. And we were working with the Frontier people as they were thinking about how to start a company and what they could do. I remember meeting with them, pre-COVID, to hear their idea, and I was thinking, could that really work? Is that realistic? And and I was speaking at their announcement, and I remember just going, I am blown away by how much opportunity there is here. And you've got a really receptive marketplace in the southeastern part of the state down there. UNC Wilmington is very engaged in life sciences. You've got a strong Cape Fear Community College training people. You've got a couple of companies there that people, Carolina Chemical and a couple others that people don't know about very well, but they're all doing great work. And I thought, well, but this is a way to bring what's going on in the rest of North Carolina through Wilmington. And that, you don't usually think of it that way, right?
Yeah. I love it. I love how a lot of, again, throughout your conversation here today, it's all about kind of spreading out to, throughout the state, and
Right,
and enabling everyone to benefit from it. So you can,
right.
so let me ask you this. We've talked a little bit about workforce and, pharma, and really creating that kind of that infrastructure and the culture and what attracts companies. What about where it all starts? Like, can you talk about the innovation kind of phase of
Certainly.
and what that innovation community looks like? Um, just a little, foreshadowing. Like we've got a program we're hosting at Kymanox with Stephen Perry and Dave from Cape Fear Biocapital
Right.
next week, talking. And part of what we're going to be talking about is that. So I'd love to hear how do you look at that early kind of venture stage, startup stage in North Carolina? Could you talk more about that?
Sure, sure. Yeah, we're of course a blessed state, and really the reason why RTP was formed because you had three large scale research universities right within 25 miles of each other, and then you've got this other organization that was formed called Research Triangle International, which started with the research park in the 50s, and that group is as big as a research engine as almost any university, $300 or $400 million a year. Um, but between our universities, there was a statistic that was floated on a per capita basis. I guess we were one of the largest receivers of NIH funding, maybe the largest. I don't know how that's held up since funding has changed, but a lot of invention and a lot of innovation comes out of the universities or from RTI. And then, what we've tried to do is build programs that help bring that out. So our loans are designed to help move innovation to the marketplace and get it ready. And then we look for venture capital to fill the space to get them going. We've had some very successful programs that are companies that have come out of investment. One of the hard parts for me is they do so well, somebody buys them and then moves them away. So we don't like that as much as if they stay here. But we have one that did a specific requirement. They could have gotten more money for the company, but they had a requirement that the company stay in North Carolina. And so the founders were they benefited from all the things that in North Carolina can do. There were things we couldn't do that they ended up having to build a facility in Spain because the state wouldn't offer the kind of incentives that Spain was offering, which, sometimes countries can do things that states can't do. But the innovation piece is alive and well. We're continuing to expand on our research going on. A lot of people don't know in Winston-Salem, there's a thing called the Wake Forest Institute of Regenerative Medicine. It is the largest end-to-end regenerative medicine program in the world. So they have invented more replacement things and just a very strong tissue engineering program that started in 2002 and has grown to be this phenomenal workhorse. And they have a little test bed area there that I was over speaking at a thing there the other day. And they've had 238 companies come through the test bed. And out of those, 6 companies have been formed that are up and running in the market. So when you think about how innovation is growing and then where it's going to, if you look in the Charlotte market right now, there's a lot of innovation going on in and around clinical healthcare delivery approaches. And so Advocate Healthcare has built something called the Pearl. And there they have a program that's the only place in North America. It's called ERCAD, which is a surgical training center designed for the idea of teaching people how to take innovations and move them to the market, and how to do surgical procedures robotically and from anywhere. So it's a very impressive investment. So I see these things over the next few years as the game changers that will continue to focus on the way North Carolina innovates.
We've gotten 30 minutes into this talk, Doug, and we didn't mention AI. I think these days
Yeah.
that's probably a record these days for a podcast.
Yeah. We are very much involved in trying to find ways to connect all the AI stuff that happens every day now. I can't go through a day without something new with some AI part to it. And how do you incorporate that into whether you run your business or how you run your line in a facility? And so our university system is very engaged and very involved in that. And I I think that uh, I can't tell, the hard part, I think, with everybody I talk to, it is so prolific that you can't put your finger on what it is most of the time. It's like I can tell you about a specific example, but I'm not sure that I can go, there's a program that's pulling all this together. I was just in a meeting a little while ago where we were talking about how do we do that in the state with all the AI work going on? How do you pull it together and say, this is the story. This is what we're trying to do. So
Well, when you have so much research data, like it all feeds by data. And I brought it up because you were talking about the Pearl and ERCAT
yeah,
and there's so much of that happening in the in the healthcare delivery space right now. It's
right,
just it's hard to keep up with. I'm with
right.
you. You can't go a day with it. Um, but um, but yeah, it's really good to hear you talk about that kind of innovation phase because I think just from an outsider, like you see a lot of headlines around pharma and
Right.
contract manufacturing, but maybe not as much around some of what's happening at that early stage. And there's a lot happening. It's just maybe not getting the
Right.
it's
Well,
competing with the media machine behind the big pharma is hard to do.
yeah. Yes. But we see it in ag tech in a really interesting way because, the one of the challenges we face in the world is the population doubling. The amount of land you have to grow crops on in the world is shrinking, and you've got to feed the population. And so AI is playing a huge role in how crops will be grown and what we'll do and how that will go. But you don't hear a lot about it. But there's a lot of going, how do you get more yield per acre? And that's science that is being carried out very much in NC State and NCANT. But I think of that and I go, well, there's so many AI applications in what they're doing, and yet you don't hear about it.
Yeah. And I think
Drones everywhere.
that's the other thing that I think about with your ecosystem in North Carolina. A lot of ecosystems you think of biotech and it's very human centric,
Right,
but you have a very ag tech is another core part of your ecosystem
right,
that is really strong. I mean, from all my trips down there, that
right.
I meet new companies and entrepreneurs working on some really innovative things, and I think I love that. That's a nice compliment. I think that's unique compared to some of the other especially when you think of like a Boston or a San Francisco or New York. I mean, North
Right.
Carolina really does have a strong kind of complementary like ag tech component.
Right. And you can't go very far without hitting in areas of the state where agriculture is the way of life. And so how do we help next generation farmers do more with probably less land? Because whenever you look around, more land is being taken for developments and uh, other great things, the positive sides of what's happening, growth. But on the other side, it's like, how do you make sure we can grow enough to support the population? So
Yeah, we
we're
all
we
know.
live and we live in a time where right now you can produce enough calories to feed everybody on the planet. You may not
Yeah,
get the food to them, but you can produce enough calories. That may
yeah,
not always be the case going forward if we don't stop and say, okay, as a population, what are we going to do here to make sure that we can take care of all the people that exist on the planet? So
yeah. Well, Doug, I'm really thankful for all your time today, sitting down and chatting with me. And I feel like we could kind of take this conversation another half an hour, but we try to keep these consumable by our audience who like to tune in and hear more. We're going to put a bunch of stuff in the show notes here to make sure that some of the stuff we talked about, people can kind of go and reference some of the announcements you talked about in different regions. So
great.
we'll do a summary of this to make sure everyone can follow along or those who tune in. But thank you for everything. I really appreciate the amazing work that you and your team does out there, kind of connecting and building a community. and sharing that all with us today.
Well, thanks. We're blessed to have so many good people on the team. So I'm very fortunate, and I appreciate your time and allowing me to share some of the great things we're proud of here. So
Yeah. So I don't know if you have a closing statement on how you like to close things, or your a one line that you like to tell people about North Carolina, but I want to give you that opportunity
sure.
to talk to our audience. Why should they think of North Carolina for their next move, or for staying?
We have a vision at the Biotechnology Center for the state of North Carolina. It is to be a global life sciences leader. And I think we are accomplishing that vision, but we want to continue to grow on that. And I think if people are willing to entertain an opportunity to come down here, they will see just how cohesive the ecosystem is. So.
Well, I can speak firsthand. We've been welcomed by everyone we talk to. And there's a congenial community down there that everybody wants to see each other succeed.
Right.
And it's great to see. So,
yeah. Good.
Well, thank you for your time today. Before I go, I just want to make sure everybody knows to tune back in our next episode. We're going to be staying on the East Coast and talking to Jesse Kent, who is at Princeton Research Labs in New Jersey, talking about really placemaking around innovation parks and what they do to really sustain a strong community in the innovation park that they've had for many, many years up there. So tune in. We'll go from more of a little macro conversation with you, Doug, down to really kind of on the ground within a cluster or a park. How do you create community? How do you help companies thrive? So that's going to be the topic of next week's What's the Buzz? Again, talking to ecosystem builders like yourself.
Great. Thank you.
All right, Doug. Thank you so much.
Right.
Wish
Take care.
you the best and hope to see you soon.
See you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.